And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're about to venture off into our first segment for the morning. After all, it is a fun Friday, and it's about fun facts for this morning as well. But Belize met Cuba, and Cuba met Belize. They had a group who actually went over there, and they did a thing or two. What did they do? We'll tell you about it. We actually have the guy in to tell us more about it. He's an artist, no stranger to the media, Yasser Musa. Buddy, good morning. How are you?
I am good, and it's a pleasure to be here, always. And good to be talking about Belize and Cuba.
Of course. That's a good way to say, to actually start your morning, whereby we talk about two countries and similarities. Talk to us about the similarities before we get into the meat of the situation here.
Well, I think countries are always different, but certainly we share a similar history. And not to go into too deep a history, but let me make a very simple analogy. We are in a hurricane zone. And we suffer every year from meteorological hurricanes, which devastates our shores temporarily. However, we cannot estimate what the colonial hurricane has done over hundreds of years to the same societies that I'm talking about in this zone, which includes Cuba and Belize and the Caribbean and the Yucatan. And so when we reach out in solidarity to Cuba, what we are saying with our gesture is that we are brothers and sisters and brothers, because we share a common history and we share a common present, because we are all in the same orbit, whether it's political challenges, social challenges, economic challenges, cultural connections, artistic connections, which are the areas where I am very interested in. But Belize and Cuba share a lot of strong bonds with each other.
Nice.
I wanna dive back a bit, because I think one of the things we know you for, Yasser, and when you come, that's what gets me excited to be able to discuss, is that you're an artist, but it's not just about being able to showcase the talent that you have. You and your team that you work with at Image Factory appeal to the social conscience of people. It's about being able to have a message and an impact, or just provoking thought. In a time like now where there are quite a number of things going on, we have a crime situation, we're talking about the murder from last night, we see the very divisive issue of the ICJ. What goes through your mind as to how the art community can or should contribute to what's happening?
Well, I think by definition, artists strive, in the words of Bob Marley and the words of many ancestors that came before him, for peace and love. And we cannot deny we live in a world where there are others who cherish violence. And when I say cherish it, I mean they build massive infrastructures to militarize the human psyche. And so, to me, the responsibility of an artist first is to reach out to others in a spirit of love, solidarity, and a common sense of trying to figure out, because we know we haven't figured it out because of where we are, trying to figure out where we are and come to a deeper understanding. The team that I was part of included Yaya Marin Coleman, who is a media worker and a social community activist, Katie Usher, who is a writer, poet, artist, Carlos Lito Quiros, who is a graphic artist, and Delmer Zib, who is a colleague of mine at St. John's College and one of the pioneers in developing the curriculum for the teaching of African and Maya history. So this group is a special group for me. I've worked for almost 25 years now with a variety of people in the fields of art and history and culture. But I find that this group has a 2019 preparation for the next 25 years, so to speak. Obviously, I don't know how long I will be a part of that, but I am just humbled to be a part of that group.
And so the idea for the Belize-Cuba connection, how did that get started?
Well, I have to say, my good friends, Ambassador Lisette and Orestes from the Cuban Embassy in Belize have been not just outstanding diplomats. I always tease them that I really enjoy their sense of humanity more than what they represent. Obviously, I respect what they represent, but I cherish even more their sense of dedication to reaching out to us. And so about a year and a half ago, we embarked on a kind of more cultural view of how we can strengthen our ties. We had a solidarity encounter at the Image Factory in May last year, which was very successful, and we're hoping to do another one. But then, as these things are happening, like you're moving in a bus and people are making noise like a school bus that I'm always on, and you can't just be paying attention to the moving bus. You have to be paying attention to what's going on the bus. And what's going on my bus right now is that I am seeing a new generation of artists and writers and poets and thinkers emerge. And it's my responsibility, I think, and my duty to reach out in the ways that others had reached out to me when I was that age. And so we started off with a simple idea. Let's do a collaborative artistic project. And we launched a project called Cañar. That's the name of the exhibition, with Falco, who is a renowned Cuban graphic illustrator. He has published in magazines all over the world and UNESCO publications. And Carlos Lito Quiroz, who is an emerging young graphic designer. And we call the exhibit Cañar because Ca, C-A-A, in Yucatec Maya means two. And Nyar, N-A-A-R with the tilde, in Wolof, which is a Senegalese West African language, means two. And so we made up a word. And
essentially.
two words meaning two artists, two countries. So it's two languages, excellent. So we merged this idea as a simple platform. And we presented the exhibit in a beautiful space in Havana, Cuba. It's now a pedagogical university for people to be trained in education and learning. But what's interesting, before the revolution, that place was a military base for the previous dictator, Fulgencio Bautista. He had it as a military operation. And when the revolution came, it was the place where Fidel Castro launched the literacy campaign that went across Cuba to abolish illiteracy in that nation. And today, we feel very honored that they have chosen that space for us to exhibit in. And as you can see with the photos, our brothers and sisters and brothers, I always say brothers first, but that's a patriarchal way to say it. Our sisters and brothers that go to school, Belizeans at the University of Medicine, they joined us at the opening, and we were very grateful for that. And I thank the ambassador, Annelou Burns, for facilitating that moment, which it was really special.
You know, the story is very touching, and I love the word ka anyar, which means, like you mentioned, the two. What was the reception like? How was in terms of the connection? We always talk about we make connection with others, but do others make connection with us? What was that reception like, from both parties?
I'll describe it in two ways.
Please do.
One, the artist Falco is an older man. I don't want to call his age, but maybe in his 40s, close to 50.
You call it?
I just call it, but he's not here yet. We're going to invite him to Belize. He can hold me accountable for saying that. But I only communicated with him on Facebook. I saw his work all over, and I was like, man, I'm admiring what you're doing, and I know this younger artist, and I put him in connection just on social media with Carlos, and they had a artistic dialogue going. And then we started to say, look, we need to have a joint exhibit. Our idea is to have it in Cuba and in late May in Belize, the same exhibit. But when I got there, his entire family was there, all dressed in a t-shirt that he had designed. His friends were there. The way we were received was like if you were being welcomed into a home, not an exhibit, oh, it's very sterile and this is an art thing and all elitist. No. It is the opposite. It was a strong social experience which connects to our sense of loyalty to each other as people. And then on the other side, at that same moment, we launched, Katie Usher did the honor of launching Bembe Vision at the same space. Leadership
in
notes,
Espanol.
English and Spanish. Leadership Notes for the Belizean Classroom, which is a book that she collaborated on with Lito and myself. She did a lot of the research. Lito did a lot of the design. So we translated it. Katie translated it. and we had copies prepared, and she launched it there. But the moment to me that was powerful was when she was finished her presentation. The lady who is in charge of the space of the pedagogical university came up to her with almost tears in her eyes, saying, "Wow, I really admire how you're focused on women and women in history, because it is not a secret that there has been erasure. There has been a calculated sense of power to just present history in a very strict power narrative of men and what they accomplish and all that stuff."
Yeah.
So this book for them, they
And even
immediately
the theme of the book,
Yes.
going with the approach of Bembe, which in Belize was almost saying something negative, which is in Belize saying something negative about someone, but
and we
showing.
intentionally did that to say something positive,
Yeah.
because in West Africa, the word Bembe has a different meaning, and in Cuba, it has a different meaning. In Cuba, because when we say they're like, oh yes, it's positive for them because it's connected to Yoruba dance and spirituality, and in West Africa, specifically in Senegal, it's connected to a thing they call the rhythm of the saints. When you get into a circle as a community and you start to dance and sing,
Chant and stuff like
and
that.
chant,
yes,
it's
yes.
no longer your one voice. It is the circle voice.
Wow.
It is the group voice, and it's the bembe. It's the call, the rhythm of the saints. That's when the saints come marching in. Well, Europeans stole all of those ideas.
We're not going there, no?
I am there.
No, you can't stop that. But no, and so you present to them what the Belizean version of Bembe
Of
is
course,
and why it's being
Katie,
heralded in Belize.
And that's why I think the professor from the university was so
Yeah.
touched by what Katie said.
Yeah.
Because what we are trying to do is not be imprisoned by the history that has been told and put on us. Rather, we are trying to liberate our own minds in terms of how we tell our story.
And also, I think it's also liberating women from the stereotypical idea of what progress or what you can do in a particular persona.
Correct.
You know, I think some of the people, and I remember talking to Audra Matura about it and being so proud, and she said,
course.
"Well, I'm Bembe and I'm proud of it."
Yes, that's a very important distinction,
yeah.
because people, if men are assertive and aggressive, and if men are outspoken, they are lauded. They are saying, "Wow, that's leadership."
That's leadership,
That's
yeah, that's what
outstanding
they
leadership."
see, yeah.
If women do that same thing, they are being out of place.
Yeah.
They are trying to be aggressive and angry, and it's just a very sick mental trap
Yeah.
that we have been fed. It's a part of our
That
cultural.
we continue
Yes,
to be
of
fed.
course.
You know, and that's
Yes.
exactly what people feel is when,
Yeah.
when women speak out. Rather than we show that respect to them, we refer to them, "Oh, you feel you know it all, you're a Bembe." Wow.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
resonates.
Which I want to imagine, are they looking at doing a Cuban version of Bembe now?
I'm not sure yet.
We gotta push that.
but
We want to hear about the Bembes from Cuba, but
Yes, that's a good.
we're gonna move all over the place. But I want to go back to some of the images I saw from Flaco and Lito and ask you just
Falco.
Sorry, what was the theme that they were working under, or was it just open ended?
All right, well, first of all, they make very simple graphic
Yeah.
designs, and that's what attracts me a lot, because working in the education system, I find that our young people are attracted to these, what I call triggers. When they see an image, they're triggered, and we can then have a discussion
Yeah.
rather than the old school way. Read this, and then everybody falls asleep, and there's no discussion. So I'm trying to get over the other side of the river right now. The point is, their themes, their ideas are a spectrum of looking at the social and cultural and political space they're in and provoking it using their imagination. For example, they deal with issues of imperialism, issues of world domination,
Yeah,
issues of media. There's one powerful shot of a television screen that says "no signal,"
Yeah.
and it has
And it has a-
you don't even have to say the name. You know exactly what this here represents. But it is that one, and it's showing that, I mean, we all face it. We put on the TV at night, and that's all that comes on.
Yeah.
This yellow fire off.
Yeah.
Well, you know, some of the images I saw, and I was trying to figure out who did what, because there's a difference between what a Cuban artist perceives in terms of their reality and a Belizean artist. And what was it like to see those next to each other? In Belize, we are blessed in many ways, while we do have our challenges, for the democracy and the freedoms that we do experience. While in Cuba, they have a completely different perspective. So what was it like having these artists next to each other? And what were some of the similarities that came out?
From an artistic perspective, I think Falco, the Cuban, has a very liberated view, a very freedom-loving view, almost a provocation.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of his ideas and Lito's ideas, I don't see that blur or that distinction. I think they come from a perspective that they have a voice as artists, and they speak to that voice. So when you look at the exhibition, actually a lot of the young people didn't know the difference.
Really?
That's what's powerful about it. They
Look at
didn't
this one.
see the difference. And this one is from when we had the teachers strike a few weeks ago, a few months ago. So I don't really see, even when sometimes I'm sent images by email and I open it for the first time, unless I see the Falco or Lito signature, I make a lot of assumptions that this is a Falco, this is a Lito. But in terms of the power of their message and the provocations that they are making, I think they stand.
And that's where we're similar.
Which one provoked you the most?
Which image?
Yeah.
Wow, that's putting me on the spot. I hope that's part of the fun facts.
Yeah.
I think that one with the signal.
The signal.
Yeah. And the one that I'm the one that helped to design the catalog. I like the one from Falco with the woman with the hair
map
of Africa.
Yeah.
The map. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. I love
So
that
one of the things I always, and I know a lot of people like to do, is actually think further ahead, which brings me to, in May, you guys will be actually doing that exhibition here, and the folks from Cuba will be coming over. What do you think that they're looking forward to the most? So where do we put that?
Wow, you give me another segue if I can.
Yeah.
I think Falco is looking forward to coming to Belize to learn about us, to be with us in a same spirit of solidarity, and we try to be as welcoming to him, saying, look, we're looking forward to it. And I think he felt that, and I am sure when he comes, he will feel it even more.
Yeah.
But in addition to Falco coming to Belize, we are also trying to organize two other big Cuban encounters in Belize, in addition to the solidarity. One is with Pablo Rodriguez. He is the leading intellectual on things Jose Marti. They are publishing 26 volumes about their national, or the soul of the Cuban Revolution. It's beyond a national hero, Jose Marti. And this is what struck me as so fascinating. In Belize, the Cuban ambassador, Lisette, was telling me a year ago that they wanted a researcher to come to Belize to investigate when Marti came to Belize as an 8-year-old boy with his father.
What?
My first reaction, to be honest, was, who cares about when he was 8 years old? What's so complicated? What's so interesting about that? But when I went to Cuba and listened and carefully paid attention to the intention of the researcher, I realized that they will leave no stone unturned as it relates to the investigations that they need to make about their hero.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the power of, it's almost an artistic idea that to hell with what the society thinks. We have to get to the bottom of this. We have to make the people realize. And he came to Belize with his dad, with his father in 1863.
What for?
That's what they want to know. And so they want to come and investigate, starting with all our archival records of that year and see where it takes him. And it would be an honor if I were to be part of that moment to see that happen, because I see how much it represents. And this, I think, is the DNA of solidarity. If we can listen to what the other is asking or requesting or is concerned about. It's not what I am concerned about, or like my first reaction, like I did, like I'm being flippant and cavalier. That's irrelevant. But you have to get into a deeper process of thinking.
I'm thinking from a science perspective to just how sometimes even in your childhood, they're life-changing moments, things that just kind of, it's like an inception, you know, it puts an idea as to what can be, what should be. And imagine if we find some of that with his visit as an 8-year-old boy.
And then we are trying to organize a visit with Suleka. I have to make sure I get her last name correct. Guerra and Gloria Rolando. 2 Cuban thinkers, intellectuals. Miss Gloria is a filmmaker, and we met with her, and I was amazed how she said her first films were on cassettes, and she joined the audio with the video, and the idea was that she was trying to investigate things about her family, her grandmother, and telling the oral story, and her emphasis on oral history and the power that she places on that, to me that is so significant, because we in Belize have had a healthy diet of thinking that history is just the written word, and it's not what is inside the people, and how to get out of the people and build a new story that's important. And so we really want to bring her and Suleka, who is another great thinker, to come and help and collaborate and be in solidarity with us on these matters.
So there are actually 10 solidarity actions that you want to take along with your counterparts in Cuba. And there's one I really was interested in, because you said it quite a bit in this conversation alone, that we don't have a reading society that's coming up. And you spoke of the great triumphs of literacy levels within Cuba. And you have a literacy project that you want to work with as a part of your solidarity action. What is that about, and how much is it taking the context of today's society, how young people think, into consideration?
Well, I will put my society under the bus because I love my society. We love to act like ostriches and pretend and just try to find moments of clarity in our little happiness by saying, oh, our education system is great, and I've been here talking about it. But the most recent studies I've seen, which is alarming, is that half, let's continue with that terminology because it's probably more, half of our peoples are not being given basic consciousness learning, not even education. The first step towards consciousness beyond your own awareness of thinking is that you need to get to read and write. That is still a fundamental right that we are not guaranteeing our young people. And that is on us, that is not on them. And so something like Yo Si Puedo, which is the campaign, the project that is in Cuba, deals specifically with people who are not part of the system. And to say, look, something went wrong, but let us now move forward and let you learn to read and write. No judgment, let's move forward, because of, as what you said, Marlene, that a society cannot figure out its civility if it doesn't have its consciousness deepened in every generation. So, Yo Si Puedo has been I didn't know much about it, but when I was there, we had the meeting. It's almost a scientific approach, and it's very graphic how they use numbers and a system of words in order to make things. So like, it's basic, like you go to the market and you add up so much oranges, and then you learn the word orange. And so it's connecting the numbers, the numeracy, with the literacy. There is a word they use I can't remember. But it's all been studied, and they spent years putting their best thinkers forward to figure out how people process language. And it has nothing to do with Spanish or English, because they have piloted this and implemented it in 30 nations, including, for example, in Bolivia, in indigenous language. So they use the same scientific structure and method in order to teach people to speak their indigenous language, because there are many societies that are interested in reconnecting to their indigenous language that has been erased from history. So I think we can start small, but I believe that if we build this culture of we cannot, as my brother Pedro Rodriguez says, leave no stone unturned. We have to have this mentality. The fact that he's chasing after a 1863 moment when Marti came here, we need to chase after the half of the population that we are not liberating or educating.
Deep. You know, one of the things that strike out to me, just listening to it as you talk, I actually see what you're saying. And I think that's one of the ways to free your mind of a lot of things that you go through. I think that's one of the ways that that got Katie with this. For those who actually put these together, I think that's one of the ways. How can we continue to give young people the ability to free themselves, because a lot of us are captivated. We're captured right here. How can we continue to have these young people, or people on a whole, open their minds to things like this? Because simply putting this together, that's saying a lot.
Yes.
And that's because that's what's in your mind.
Correct.
So they're free. How can we continue to do this? Yes, sir.
Wow. What, it's early in the morning and you're bringing...
No,
this-
you mentioned to me when
Yes,
you got
I
here.
know.
You
Yeah,
can
you're at
handle
12
it.
midday.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let me answer it this way. I've been teaching for 25 years, but whenever I enter the classroom, I enter with a great sense of optimism, nervousness, and a sense that what is it that I'm really trying to do? Constantly. So when, for example, my young brother Delmer Zib, who went with us on the trip from San Antonio village in Cayo, he came to me as a 21-year-old. Well, not came to me, but he was hired by SJC, but we met at SJC. And he started to say, you know, I like this concept of the teaching of African American history. He was there for the first year. We're now in our 6th year.
Wow.
Yeah, we're getting old. But he said, you know, I could help to write this thing. And he spent 2 years, I was witness to that, on his laptop. I mean, the laptop was all beaten up because he had just come back. He was just out of University of Belize. That is the sound in my head. And if you go online to BelizeHistorySJC.com and go to curriculum and press print, you will get an almost 200-page document by a Belizean youth that took, not because the school said, sit and bag of money, no, because he took intellectual responsibility for the challenge that he saw ahead of him. Nobody can, what I think you are getting at is that if we deny that, that is where we fall short. And the fact that we have so many issues going on in education, it says to me that we are denying that. We are denying unleashing the young generation of teachers. What I believe we're doing to them is building new walls. I like that term that Mr. Trump comes up with. Walls of suppression and oppression upon them to say, this is how you have to do it. This is how you have to do it. You are telling me this is how you have to do it when you have failed? You can't be telling me what to do. What I should be doing is say, here, what? Eat some humble pie. I am sorry I have failed. Could you explain to me and help me so we can move forward? And this is the approach that we have to take. That what the young people are thinking and experiencing is the moment that we have to face. It's hard for me to express that because I see it and I feel it. That so many times we just lock people out of this ability to collaborate. Many times it's because we feel offended because of the way she talked to me or he talked to me, or the way they just try to come in and play so quick and they try to make them move. Where are they going then? Instead of saying, okay, let me listen to that and let us collaborate and move forward. That I would think, I'm obviously very biased, I'm in my little small orbit in a swamp, but I would think that that is something universal of locking people out and locking out the requirement, which is the young will become the old. And we can't just make them old from the young. That's the way they do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you just have to lock up in a box and stay in
And
there.
that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Deep.
Nice.
I know, right? I
know.
too.
I always say I feel like I missed the opportunity not being one of your students, but I'm glad that I get to have these conversations with you here.
Well, school is not in a box, right? And so this is the
This is
OIE
an
school.
extension.
The OIE,
I can say that. That's a lot of education all in one. Let me just throw some. I can't have you here.
Can I bring up a torch thing? Sorry. You asked
But
me
let me go first, right?
Yes,
All right,
sure.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
I can't have you here and not ask about your views on what you're seeing unfolding in society with the upcoming referendum. You are in the classroom with the teachers. You are out with the artists. You have a great feel of what people are saying and thinking. What's your perception as to how the conversation is unfolding in society?
Well, I think that this moment makes us all nervous. And if we don't admit to that, then we are not recognizing the appointment that we have.
Yeah.
I have paid attention as best I could. I have read as much as I could. And I have made a decision not to say what I think. I'll tell you why. I think it smacks of arrogance. I mean, if somebody were to ask me, then I'll have to be forced to say it. But I think what's even more important at this moment is what happens on the 11th of April. And it shows that we don't know. We're not prepared intellectually, we're not prepared mentally, we're not prepared psychologically. We're not prepared to say, okay, if it's a no, so then what next? If it's a yes, then what next? We are thinking that this thing is just an X.
That's it.
And that is a reflection since 1981 of going into a booth, come out, come out. And that is our civil and social responsibility. It's a more complex thing than that.
Voting with no expectations after, or no.
That the thing has become a yes, no. It
Always
becomes
been-
blue, red,
yeah.
no.
What is-
Yeah.
what
I
is-
knew it was we're going to hit that wall.
Well,
and we
nothing
have
in
hit it.
Belize seems to escape the blue-red divide. But can I just,
hit it.
you spoke
Wow,
of the,
right.
the arrogance, in what way?
Because from this perspective, because you cannot be saying that we want to have a campaign that is balanced and then you don't be balanced. I would have had a big respect for the government if they say, you know what, we are the state. It is our responsibility to say yes, to go yes, all out. I am sorry. If you're going to say no, it's your conscience, go for it. But not come and say, we're going to try and present. Because then people saw right through that immediately.
Yeah.
It became just to them another political campaign. So that to me is what is causing the people to be like,
Sweet.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm describing it accurately by saying
Lacking
nervous.
trust.
Yeah, like there's a sense of, and then when they have that feeling, I feel some of them are now saying, well, I'm not going to vote, and then that frightens me even
Of
more.
course.
Yeah. So
This is an appointment with history. You know, you
Right.
said an appointment, and we've been calling it a historic decision. It has major implications for our future, and maybe we haven't discussed enough what happens on April 11th. But you spoke of the decision and the fear. I think fear was the word you used about what people experience, and that's kind of the sentiment that I seem to be getting a lot. Decision making is hard.
of course,
Risky decisions or decisions with great consequences are even harder. And I've been having this conversation more and more with people about, you know, being able to, whether it's pros versus cons, or being able to allay your own fears or recognize that fears will exist either way. I want to get some insight into kind of how your discussion goes with people in how you approach such an important decision that, quite frankly, whether it's educated to us or not, or it's a part of a campaign, will have risks on either side.
all right. Let me bring Cuba into this conversation because Delmer and I were having a long discussion one night about this issue. Right now, Cuba is going through a big moment as well,
Yes.
because they're going towards a new constitution in February this month.
Yeah.
And they had an incredible process of going around in the streets and so. And the perception we have on the outside is that that process wasn't democratic. That to me is insulting to the people of Cuba.
Yeah.
The way they elect their parliament, for example, youths, many women, many people of all parts of society, they go into the community, and you have to have credibility first in the community to recommend somebody, then you vote for that somebody going. We have the opposite. Anybody go up, and then they build a false credibility, and we vote for them, and then that's it.
That's it.
Put the X, and we're gone from them. So we don't really, we have a fool's paradise sense of democracy. However, I don't think we've ever had a moment in history where we've had a deeper democratic process than this ICJ thing. I don't think so. Because the project is placed on the table. They've tried to do their campaign. People are discussing it. And so I discuss it in that context with my students. What is your concept of democracy? That you will just say yes or no? Is that your concept? Because then some will say, well, you tell what you think, sir, because I want you to tell me what you think. I said that's why I started off with that thing and that sense of arrogance. Because then I can be a real bombastic teacher and say, I want to say no, or I want to say yes.
Or vote this way.
And this is opposite of how I have conducted my teaching life in 25 years.
Yeah.
So I'll be a hypocrite. That's why I said arrogant. Because it felt very, like you want to tell me, you to beg me for a thought that you will then just appropriate. I want you to think about it. What is your parents' view? What's your friends when you go to the gym, go talk to them? We want to talk to them at the gym, but when you go to the gym again, ask them about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I never think about it that way. So to me, that is more exciting.
I found that, and I've been saying it more and more. People keep on asking
Well,
how to vote. How to vote. You've read more. You've talked to more people. Tell me how to vote. And I don't know what that means in terms of what will happen on April 10th, because it might very well be what you're talking about, that we get the analysis paralysis and just don't go.
Yeah.
Or whether people feel that they choose the safer of two decisions, whatever that may be. But it's quite interesting insight. What would you, if you could have a hand in the last month, the last push towards the referendum, whether it's in the campaign from the referendum unit or from either side, how would you do it differently?
Well, I think they didn't do the first thing I said about what we are trying to do here. They didn't unleash the young people first.
Yeah.
Isn't it about them? We didn't first, we neglected and we didn't prepare them in our education system. That's the first big abandonment. So now everybody are like, we're going this thing, we're going this thing. What will that mean? What will that mean?
I hope for vote.
You think in Cuba, the people in their school system don't know about that revolution? They don't know the responsibility. 90% plus go to university. 16% of our school students go to university. So that is the issue. We haven't prepared on the deeper level our society. And then on the more superficial level, which is the last month, 3 seconds on the clock, we're done by 4, and now you're asking me, should I take a 3 and try to get foul?
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
But sometimes that 3 people win.
Yes, we can win. We can still win. We can still
I mean,
win.
That's in
if
the
you
game.
don't take that shot, then you're hated by the fans.
I'm not trying to throw a pessimistic blanket on it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to progress to now.
Yeah.
And I think that whatever comes out April 11th, we should at least have this thought in mind. Are we going to change the education system? Are we going to change how we teach our young people about who we are and where we want to go?
Yeah.
And that to me is a big lesson that can be learned. Obviously, I come from a bias from education, right? So,
All right. Well, I'm glad. I know you didn't want to share your insight. You're
Yes.
holding your head now that you got sucked in. But you do have quite a number of projects. And just before we kind of give you a little surprise element for today, don't look at the bowl so nervous. It's going to be fine. But what's the plan? How do you, what's your timeline if I am to restrict you to a box? On these solidarity actions?
there is no timeline. Solidarity forever. The point is, I can do so much. Our team can do so much.
Yeah.
But there are many people doing a lot too. There are many people in the medical field, in the sports field. I mean, my daughter plays volleyball.
Yeah.
I see she has a Cuban coach. I am part of the Table Tennis Association. They have Cuban coaches, so it's everywhere. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about the way Cuba as a country interacts with us. It's on a grassroots, human level.
Yeah, and people have been thankful for it. As I said, we spoke with Orestes earlier this week. He is so touched by just how people reach out and say, you know, my son studied in Cuba.
Correct.
How can I help for the victims of the
Yes.
tornado? So it is fascinating. But we got to end off the conversation. And it's Fun Friday.
Fun.
Esther.
It is.
It's Fun
It is.
Friday. And so once upon a time, we initiated this particular segment. It's called Fun Facts from Familiar Faces.
Yeah.
So keeping in the F team, right? We got 5 minutes too, right?
Perfect.
And you're just going to pick
A paper.
a question and answer as you go along. You'll answer as many questions as you can in 5
5
minutes,
minutes.
right?
All right,
So
let's
you
go.
pick them and I read
I
them.
could pick a lot like this.
No, you pick one
one
at
at
a
a
time.
One, man. Yes, sir,
Let me
man.
read
Oh, you to read
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
As
you
I'm a
cheat.
makeup pastor.
What was
makeup
your
artist.
first email address?
Yasser Art at Yahoo, but then it was hacked. I was one of the famous hacked in 2008 during a campaign. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
and then I read all the emails out on the opposition radio. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're smart. Most people have an embarrassing
Yeah, next
first
one.
email.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We won't
Bem-
run out
Bembe
this
boy.
5 minutes, you know. Yeah, I've heard quite a few. It
No,
says,
probably Bembe boy. Okay. Then this one says, do you like to cook?
Sandwiches.
You
That-
cook
that-
sandwiches.
And maybe reheating,
What book are you reading right now or plan to read next?
Wow, several. But I'm reading a book that the Casa de las Americas director in Cuba gave to me. It's a magazine. And the focus, it's every 3 months, is on Bob Marley. And they're tying him to how he has influenced the world and the Pan-African concept. So it's a very beautiful.
Wow. All right.
Pick 'em.
We want to get out as much from you
Yes,
as
all right,
possible.
I'll go fast.
All right, so
One
here we
word
go.
answers.
When in your life have you had a now or never moment?
Now or never.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I got married.
Wait.
I was not
I
expecting
was very
that to
sure
be your
about that
answer.
too. I was very clear, yes.
Yeah, nothing wrong for clear yourself.
Yes,
now,
You know,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could come for a Valentine's special too.
Pick another, pick another,
I have
pick
to come
another.
alone. I think my wife is so shy. She wouldn't want to come.
All right.
All right. Can you do your job from working from home?
Of course.
Yes. All right. That was
That's
an
easy.
easy
I
one.
do most of my work.
Yeah.
from home.
Easy. All right. Wow. Now, would you rather be able to run a marathon in an Olympic qualifying time or be able to do extremely complex math in your head?
Math. My son is a good, I admire him for that, mathematics. And I'd love to know how to play volleyball too, but I leave that to my children.
When was the last time you went to a church?
Oh,
Other than-
I have a church on my campus. We go there all the time.
Ask you,
I got,
wait,
I
how
got through that
much?
one fast.
That one was
All right.
easy.
Okay.
Rick, the kind of
These
questions did you
are
got?
random.
So here we go. We got what? 2 more minutes?
Go ahead.
Yes.
What in today's society do you feel should be free but is not?
Oh.
Internet.
Oh.
I think that is one of the most oppressive things that they've commercialized, something that should be a human right.
Wow. I thought you were going to say education.
Which, because that would trigger better education.
What do you hate the sound of?
Wow.
Big truck the Drake breaks.
That's a very crazy question.
No, it's not.
Yes, yes, thank you.
No, say it.
Screeching song.
Nails on a chalkboard.
We don't have chalkboard anymore, so that's
Okay,
a pass.
who is the meanest person to you? Who is the meanest person you know?
Wow.
The meanest person
I
you
have
know.
to say the person's name.
You got 2 minutes. You decide.
I think I see meanness in myself, and that quality I see in many others, which is like when you are sarcastic towards young people, because you can't tolerate the way they speak. Like you just have to blast them.
Yeah.
And when I do that, after I say, man, that was really mean. And when I see it done by others, yeah,
Mean.
so it's a concept of
Yeah.
mean. Sarcasm is a mean. Marlene,
What is your all-time favorite movie or song? Let's go movie.
Song.
Let's go movie,
Movie.
because
My
song
gosh, I
will
have
keep
so
you
many.
here all day.
I will say Roma, and I haven't even seen it because I know it will be a good movie. You've seen it?
No, it's
I
on
haven't
my
seen
watch
it.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to like a movie. You could just like the concept of the movie.
That
And
would
that's it.
be
All right. Would you rather be able to lie without being caught or always be able to tell when someone is lying?
I would love to know when someone is lying.
human lie
Because
detector.
we do,
I love this,
because we
man.
do it so well.
I love this, I
We
swear.
do lying so well.
If you needed someone to act as a character reference for you, who would you choose?
My wife, my mother, and my daughter, all women. And I have said that already before.
Because they love you unconditionally.
And also they know the real me.
Okay, boss. Hopefully we're getting the real you. Do you live alone?
No, that's a
nope.
silly one.
That's a
Move on,
silly
yeah.
question. So we move on.
Yeah.
But in ways we all live alone. Think about that.
If you had an extra hour every day, what would you do with it?
Certainly not watch TV. I want to learn how to just be still and just not be like having to think that I have to be doing something and not feeling as if it's wasting. But
Okay. Let's go get Brata. We got 2
yeah,
seconds.
one
more.
Right.
Yes.
Brata. I was glad.
All right.
And hopefully it's a good one. Would you rather be rich or famous?
people will say I'm both. That's a joke.
What's your preference?
None. I don't like none. I don't like the,
If you had to
implication
choose.
of those questions.
What do you, if you had to
If you
choose?
Man, better tear up that question. Rick, I want to think that Rick put it on
Pick one more being that, you don't like that question. One more.
rich and famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be rich and famous.
No, you can't have both. Life not that easy.
This one, okay.
No, this is book. All right, we're done.
Ah,
we're done.
One more. So
One more,
One
all right, one
more,
more
huh?
stuff to say. Yes,
Yes,
good.
but I want to
So here we
get. There's
go.
some pretty deep ones in here. I don't know how you haven't gotten
Okay.
it. I'll find one.
Oh, man.
Who makes these questions?
I'm
Can't
like
be
going
no-
and going and going and going. Yeah.
They must have done cut me off of the TV.
No, man.
No,
See,
we're
right
on,
there,
we're
you're in
still
at the
on,
TV
we're still
still,
on.
yes. You're still in at the TV.
Some of them would like
My
to
name is
ask
really
Still in
looking
at
for a
TV.
question for you. All right.
The camera people look exasperated. Exasperated, is that a word?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
We're not
what is
having,
this?
We're not
One
having
more.
a pick.
One more.
We're not having good picks right now.
Good.
All right.
It was a great
What
pleasure.
other country would you want to live in?
Well, Cuba would be an awesome country to live in.
All right, so this one is personal. What's your best personality trait?
I'm working on it, but I really think the ability to listen. That is tough, because I like talk and I think I know it a lot, but to
Tough.
and hear. Listen are one thing, but hear.
Hearing. Okay.
Yeah, that's really, I struggle with that.
all right, all right.
That's a great skill to
Well,
have.
buddy,
All right, yes,
we're
sir.
thankful.
You
We're
survived
thankful.
fun facts, right?
It wasn't too bad.
All right.
Yeah.
You had some good picks, I gotta say. You lucked out, right?
Watch out.
We're
Look
gonna
how many
go ahead
questions.
And take a break. When we come back, it'll be for Grace Flavor with a Beat, so stay tuned.